The Stanley Cup Final has been set. The Tampa Bay Lightning are moving on, and they will have a chance to three-peat after defeating the Rangers in 6. We'll talk about the finish to that series and how the Lightning really came on down the stretch. And also, I'll make a case for why the Leafs should potentially look to trade a first-round pick to get out of the Mrazek deal. Dave, you'll be interested to hear that one. And we're going to get those final couple of questions in from the Athletics Leafs fan survey. So all that more on today's edition of Locked On Leafs.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast. What's up, shop for all things Leafs? I'm Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother from TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joining me, it's my co-host, Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet, also a writer for the NHL PA. Locked On Leafs is a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast, so be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcast from. And you can also now catch us up on video on YouTube. That's Locked On Leafs on YouTube. And we have passed the 1,000 subscriber mark. And we're going to tell you exactly how you can win an Austin Matthews Leafs jersey. I got it right here, Dave. I'm ready to give it away. It's sitting right here beside me, and I want to give it away to one of our fans. So should we tell them how to win the jersey? Should we tell them how we've come up with the great, fun way to figure out who gets to take this jersey home?
Absolutely. I think, first off, we don't want you to lose this jersey. I know you have it tucked away in a nice place. We want to make sure that it also gets to its home before, this person may want to have it for the draft or free agency. You never know.
Yeah. There it is for our good folks watching on YouTube. You could see it right there. Nice little Austin Matthews Maple Leafs home jersey. And it's going home to one of you loyal, lucky subscribers. So make sure you are subscribed, because if you are not one of our subscribers, then you are not eligible for the jersey. But that's really the only thing you need to be eligible for it, is to make sure you're subscribed to the podcast on YouTube. And here's how you're going to be able to win this thing, okay? This is the way that we have decided to give this bad boy away. If you're listening on podcast form, just make sure that you also go and subscribe to us on YouTube to allow yourself to be eligible. But we are going to play a little trivia game throughout the week. So we do episodes every single day, Monday through Friday, brand new episodes each and every morning. So during each episode, at some point throughout the show, each one of the days, Monday through Friday, we have 5 clues. So each day we're going to give a new clue. We're going to play a little bit of a name that Leaf. So it's a new clue for that player, and they'll get progressively, they'll start harder, and then they'll get easier as you can potentially narrow it down throughout the week. But in order to make sure that you're paying attention, make sure that you're coming in and you're watching these videos, like each video as well. Go ahead and like the video so that we know that you saw it, so we know that you got the clue. And then on Friday's video, you'll have the final clue. And then on next Monday, we'll be announcing the winner. With the final clue, you got to announce it and comment in the comment section on Friday's video. And we'll pick a random winner. We'll randomize it. We'll show it right here on the YouTube channel. And whoever's name pops up, we'll do 3 randomizers that we did last time. Lucky number 3. So we'll do 3 times through the pick a name randomizer, and then whoever's name pops up gets the jersey. So that's pretty much how it's going to go, and that's how you can win it. But first and foremost, got to be subscribed to Locked On Leafs. All right, Dave. First of all, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. And notice how I didn't give away the first clue. We'll be giving it away at some point later on in the show. I'm not going to tell you when. You're going to have to keep listening and find out a little bit later on in the show, and then keep returning Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday will be the final clue, and get your chance to win that jersey. So let's transition into this weekend. The Stanley Cup Final is now set. The Rangers lost in 6 games. The Lightning come back win 4 straight, Dave. Like, they were down 2-0, and it was like, man, maybe they're getting a little tired. Vasilevsky doesn't look quite himself. And then they kicked off the rust in game 3 and said, nah, we're good. We're back. And go on to win 4 straight. But how about Andre Vasilevsky? Continues this unreal streak of dominance in series clinching games. Now 8-0 with a .25 goals against. Yes, 0.25 goals against in 8 series clinching games, a .991 save percentage with 6 shutouts. That is unbelievable. The only goal scored against this guy is the one the Maple Leafs got. And also the Rangers got 1 goal on the power play, albeit in the game Saturday night. Those are the only 2 goals in the last 8 series clinching games that Andre Vasilevsky has had. Unbelievable.
Should have been 3 goals. I'm just gonna put that out there. Should have been 3 goals.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I mean, the big thing was after the Rangers had scored, what comes like 10 seconds after, the Lightning just are like, we got the lead, we're good. Like, it's probably that about the Lightning, is that their confidence never wavers, right?
Yeah.
They were down 0-2 in that series. People were like, oh, maybe they have finally met their match, a good goalie like Shesterkin can take them out. And then they just like, nah, we'll just reverse sweep them and just do the 4, go down 2 and just win the next 4. I think that's what has, whether you like them or not, that's what makes the Tampa Bay Lightning, the best chance for a three-peat in the last, few decades. It's that teams like that, they never panic. They know that they have the ability to come back and to win a game like that. So if I'm the Colorado Avalanche, that's something. I mean, we're going to preview the series, but that's one thing to look at, is that you have to know that you never have these guys where you think you have them. They will find a way.
Yeah.
So be very, very careful.
Absolutely. Wasn't tested a whole lot Saturday night. And that was a big issue, I think, throughout this whole series, really. After the first game, the Rangers got nothing going offensively. And you got to credit the Lightning for just shutting it down. I mean, the last game, you go and you look into the analytics, the Rangers had an expected goals of .95 at 5-on-5. So they weren't even expected to score a goal. And they had 5 high danger chances through the entire game compared to the 19 that the Lightning had at 5-on-5. So safe to say that like Shesterkin is really the only one who I guess kept this a tight series in terms of the score. But ultimately, you only get 9 goals at 5-on-5 in a 6-game series. You're just not going to win, especially against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
No, it's not going to cut it. I mean, since they went up 2-0, didn't the Rangers only score 4 goals?
Yeah, and 3 of them were on the power play.
It's just like, you can't expect to win. Look, your goaltending has been elite, but it's not that elite, right? Like, no amount of.
Well, it is, but you literally have to shut out.
Yeah, like
team.
that's what I mean. You can't.
I mean, Igor did everything he possibly could to give this team a chance to win it. I mean, the guy ended up with, I think it was an over 6 goals, minus 6 goals above expected, or plus 6 goals above expected. So, he was unbelievable himself. And they just got no offense to help him.
Yeah, no, that's where, if you're trying to figure out the formula to beat a team like the Lightning, you're just like, okay, you need a good goaltender to beat the Lightning. Well, he had probably the best goaltender they faced all playoffs.
Yep.
That wasn't enough. All right, you just got to go toe for toe with them offensively. Well, the Panthers were probably the best team to do that because they were the best offensive team in Tampa.
Don't sell Toronto short. Don't sell Toronto short.
Well, Toronto gave them the best. Obviously, Toronto was that balanced team, right? Goaltending wasn't like that. Was the balance, because people always say it was the only team that gave Andre Vasilevsky any problems in the playoffs. That made him look somewhat human, except for when it came to winning an elimination game. Other than that, Andre Vasilevsky looked human. But that's the thing, right? You're trying to find that formula, and it's just like, you have to have that complete team, top to bottom, right? You can't be just good at offense. You can't just have good goaltending. You have to be well-rounded because that's what the Tampa Bay Lightning are.
Yeah, absolutely. And now they'll move on to play the Colorado Avalanche, who well-rounded up front, well-rounded on the back end. The goaltending is a little bit 50-50, I would say. So we'll see what ends up happening there, but it should be a fun series. That one's going to start Wednesday night. We'll get into this a little bit more later on in the week. Probably Wednesday, we'll do a preview of the Cup final. But the one last thing that I want to ask you about this, with the Rangers now being deposited, they're joining the Maple Leafs as one of the ones left in the wake of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Does it make you feel any better watching Tampa, knowing that the Leafs were one bounce away in Game 6 overtime? Does it make you feel any better that the Tampa Bay Lightning are representing the East in the Stanley Cup Final?
No, not at all. Because I'm going to bring up something here from the score.
Okay.
Because you know how they always say Leafs fan, like the Leafs live rent free in a lot of people's minds. The comments I saw from this post today from the score, I'll read it out for the folks that are on the audio side. Beat the Leafs, advance to the Stanley Cup Final. The last 3 years, the team that beat the Leafs in the first round have gone on to the Stanley Cup Final.
Yeah, the Blue Jackets are excluded from this because it was technically a wild card play.
Yeah, it wasn't a first round playoff series. That was
Right.
a wild card to get into the playoffs, so that did not count. Andrew Berkshire with the comment that kind of just summed it up for me. Raise a banner. You cannot, like, for me, I don't hold this as like something that you should be proud of, that the team that beat you in the round one is the one that's going to the cup final, because then you're kind of saying, oh, if we did it, we would have been there. It's like, I don't know why I'm saying we. I hate doing that, so I'm going to apologize for that one. Like, if you're the Leafs, this does not make the players feel any better. If anything, it makes them even angrier.
I agree.
For me, it's just like, no, this is just, it just adds salt to the wound.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know you can look at it in two ways. Be like, the Leafs, like they just couldn't beat the Lightning. Does that mean that maybe they're the second best team in the NHL, and they're not a first round team that gets they just happen to play the best in the first round? And sure, you can make that argument, but ultimately, I still look at it as they didn't get the job done, no matter who they played. And at the end of the day, the goal is to win a championship. And if you can't beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are a championship team, well, you still didn't reach your goal, did you? So, like, cool. Whether they come second, what do they say? Second place is just first last. Who cares? You know what I mean? So even if they go on to win or they finish as the runner up, it really has no bearing on how I feel about the Maple Leafs. But I do see a lot of comments out there. It's making some Leaf fans feel a little bit better about the season, knowing that they went toe to toe with the team about to three-peat. And yet, want to look at a glass full, it can make you feel better about the squad, I suppose, if you've been feeling a little blue about the Leafs. But ultimately, for me, I still look at it as a bit of a failed season, not getting out of the first round, despite obviously playing one of the top two teams in the NHL. All right, why don't we take a quick break? When we get back, I'm going to make my case, David, for why I believe that trading away a first-round pick to get out of the Peter Mrazek contract could work. I'm going to make my case next. Before we do that, though, I want to tell the good friends about Athletic Greens.
Yep. Product that we use every day because we want to get better gut health. We want more energy. We want to optimize our immune system. And frankly, I hate taking pills. I hate taking vitamins because you wake up one day and say, yep, I'm going to take my vitamins. Later in the day, you realize, did I take my vitamins? Can't remember. Well, how about this? With Athletic Greens, all it is just one delicious scoop of AG1, which you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients support your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All of those things. So, why do I do it? As I kind of mentioned, I'm a person of convenience. I like something that's easy to take, what's easier than putting one scoop in a glass or bottle of water? I've also mentioned it to family and friends, and they thought, wow, this seems very convenient and easy. I said, it's the easiest thing you can take. I know that a lot of people take tons of some type of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. There's a lot of different ones out there. Pick the one that's right for your body, which is why AGI, which has small micro habit with big, is a small micro habit with big benefits. It's the one thing you can do every single day to take care of yourself. And your subscription comes with a year supply of vitamin D, which is so important to add in in the winter months, because we don't get much sunlight in the winter months. So soak it up now with the vitamin D in the sun in the summertime. Keep that athletic greens going, and then in the wintertime, you can get that. You can use the benefit of the free vitamin D supply. So, how can you take advantage of reclaiming your health and arming your immune system with some daily nutritional insurance? Well, Athletic Greens is going to give you that free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take an ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. We're your hosts here at Locked On Leafs, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast. Be sure to subscribe to us wherever you can for audio, also on YouTube for video. And the Name That Leaf will be coming up in just a couple of minutes. Not doing it quite yet, but we'll be doing it shortly. So make sure that you keep listening along for the first clue in order to win that Austin Matthews Maple Leafs jersey. All right, Dave, it's time for me to make my case as to why I believe that maybe trading away a first round pick doesn't, it's not an awful suggestion to get out of the Peter Mrazek contract. So we all know $3.8 million for the next 2 seasons for Peter Mrazek. The problem is he also makes $4.4 million in actual dollars the next 2 years. So yeah, it's about, it's not that much. It's $7.6 million in cap, I guess, over the next 2 years, but it's 8.8 in real dollars. So there's going to have to be a sweetener of some kind to get this man off the books. And I think that we've discussed before how there are some things that are going to be off limits. So I don't think we see a top prospect go. By the way, you know who we missed on our list of top prospects who we didn't say is like a no-go? Nick Robertson. We did not put Nick Robertson on our list of untouchables when talking about prospects we'd move along with the Mrazek contract to get it done. But we are adding to that list today. So here's where I want to go. Are you following, Dave? Are you following?
So I was when you were talking about the first round pick, I wanted to channel my inner Gary Cole and be like, "What you talking about, Mike? What you talking about?"
So at least pick 25th overall, right? So
Yeah.
it's a late first round pick, but it still holds quite a bit of value being a first round pick. Overall, you can find great value in the 20s, up and down the draft, but in the 20s, typically you can also find some really, really good gems who just slip out of the mid portion of the draft. And, you can also get yourself some elite talent. So here is what I think we could see happen. Everyone's been talking about this being the summer of Masai. Kyle Dubas, this has to be his summer of Masai. The way that he did a couple of years back where he brought in Kawhi Leonard, moved out DeMar DeRozan, then went on to win a championship. Well, I'm not sure if we're going to see that type of summer, but maybe we could see the spring of 22 Masai Ujiri. And this is what Masai did. If you're a basketball fan, you'll know that this trade occurred. At the deadline, Goran Dragic was a player who wasn't really doing anything for the team, for the Raptors, but they trade a first-round pick along with Goran Dragic and trade him for Thaddeus Young and a second-round pick. So essentially they did a pick swap and they traded players, and for taking on more money in Dragic, they got that first-round pick. The team who they traded for got that first-round pick in return. So what I'm saying here, Dave, is not giving up a first-round pick by itself, but what about a pick swap? So Mrazek in a first-round pick for a mid-second round pick. So you're basically dropping down a few spots, but you're not dropping completely out of the draft. You're not giving up a full draft pick, but you're dropping down in value, and that is replaced by what Peter Mrazek, the negative value that he has. So I'm talking about packaging the 25th overall pick and Peter Mrazek for, let's say, I've got 4 teams potentially who I believe would fit the bill for who guys who could bring in a Peter Mrazek. We talked about the Chicago Blackhawks last week. They've got pick 38. They've also got pick 57. Not so sure that they're going to want to move on from 38, but potentially pick 57. So what about packaging those two and you give up 25, but you're not really giving up a first-round pick. You're just moving down the draft board 22 slots. Now, that might be a lot, so we'll see. Maybe you have to also get a 6th-rounder in return, potentially, but that's the type of stuff I'm talking about. The Arizona Coyotes, however, they've got a pick at 43 and 45. What if you do that? You move down 20 slots, right, from 25 to 45, but you also unload Peter Mrazek, and you can still get a good player, typically from about 20 to 50. They're very similar players, and you look at anyone's board, it really, like, somebody could have somebody at 48, and on another team, let's say Toronto's got someone ranked at or Montreal, let's say, has someone ranked at 48, and then Toronto could have them ranked at 25. You know what I mean? And if they get all the way down to pick 45 here, and that guy's still on the board, well, Toronto had him as like a 30th overall selection. It's a steal for them. You know what I mean? So I think that could potentially be a way to do it. Seattle's got a couple of picks at 58 and then another one late at 61. And Philadelphia doesn't have a pick, but that's another team who I think they can make a potential trade with. They got pick 69, which is an early 3rd rounder. Potentially you do a little bit more. But the basis of the trade is 25th overall and Peter Mrazek, and you don't give up the 1st-round pick entirely. It's a pick swap. You just move down the board a little bit, but not too far, and you could still get yourself a pretty quality prospect in the middle of the 2nd round.
So this is the Kyle Dubas special in a way too, right? Because the Leafs have traded down how many times throughout the years out of the 1st round or even just going late into the 1st round. So the one that comes to mind when I'm thinking of trading out of the 1st round and going into the 2nd round is that pick in 2015, right? So the Leafs took that. They went from, I think it was 23rd. It was somewhere along those lines. It was like early 20s, and they traded it for 2 picks. So, yeah, sorry, it was number 24, and then they moved down. I'm just checking here. I think it was like in the 60s or something along those lines. You can get good players in the 2nd round. I actually think that one of the picks that they used, it was actually the Travis Dermott pick.
Yeah.
So that was one of them. The other, funny enough, so the Leafs could have actually have had Sebastian Aho with the pick right after that.
Yeah.
So like that's where you can really hit on a pick like that. I think the other pick ended up being Jeremy Bracco at 61. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that if you say, all right, you take on this contract, you get yourself into the 1st round, we can be okay with going into the I would
40s.
be comfortable going into the 40s, if maybe late 40s, early 50s, to give you an idea of how good of a player you could potentially get in the 2nd round later. Because I know when you think of the disparity from, 33rd overall versus, let's say 64th, Matthew Knies was picked 57th overall.
There you go.
So don't think, that's where I'm trying to help Mike out here, in that some people are like, oh, you're going to trade 25 just to go all the way down to like 57. Well, 57 could still be a good player, as Mike said. So you have to be, and look, it's the best way to ensure you don't completely give up a pick. I don't mind that idea. I thought you were just going to flat out trade a 1st round pick and taking on like a contract back.
No.
Glad you didn't suggest that, because that would have, I think a lot of Leafs fans would have asked you to go and get yourself checked.
Probably.
So a little bit of help.
Probably.
have me go drive all the way to Niagara to see if you're okay. If we need to have a little chat.
Yeah, but the Leafs have had really, really good a really good track record with finding guys in the 50s. Go back to 2018. Back was 2018 the first year that Dubas was at the helm, or was that 2017?
2017,
Okay.
because they draft. Actually, it
Mm,
might have been. It's no, whatever year Dubas was hired as GM was the year that he took over the draft. So I believe that was the year they brought in Tavares, and that would have been because Lou Lamoriello, he left. It was 2018.
yeah. So the
Because
2018 draft,
Lamoriello left, and then Hunter left in 2018.
right.
So
So
2018. I can bring up that draft if you want.
sure. Okay. I have it open here, but yeah, if you want to bring it up so we can look at it. But you go back to it, and every single year since then, the Leafs have gotten great value out of the 50s, which is the late second round and early third round picks. So going back to 2018, they got Sean Dursey, who's turned out to be quite a good player. They traded him, obviously, as
Yeah.
part of the deal to get was he in the Campbell deal? No, Muzzin. He was in the Muzzin deal. Yeah. So
Well, it would have been Muzz. Yeah, it was Muzzin.
yeah. So he was part of the deal to get Muzzin, but he's turned out to be a pretty solid NHL defenseman so far in his early tenure with the LA Kings. And so that's the type of pick that you can get at 52, right? So that's a decent player. And then you go to the following year, and in the second round, you get Nick Robertson at pick number 53. Pretty solid player, good
Yeah.
value that you were able to get. Nick Abruzzese was a fourth round pick, even. So, like you can get some good value later in the draft, but then go to 2020. Roni Irvinen is a decent player, but Topi Niemela, who's one of the Leafs' top draft picks right now, top prospects, right shot defenseman, picked in the third round at pick number 64. So you can get solid value. And you already talked about Matthew Nyes last year in the second round at 57 overall, getting him, who is now the Leafs' number one draft prospect that they have, picked him at 57 overall. So you can get real good value with the Maple Leafs. They've been able to really scout and pick those guys, and they've been able to pinpoint some talented players later in drafts, and they're starting to develop those guys now, but they really look like they've been able to. The amateur scouts deserve a big pat on the back in a way for what they've been able to do in the second round, in particular with those late second round picks, because the Leafs trade away all their first round picks. So at least they're getting some good seconds. So why not do it one more time, and get out of that Mrazek deal, move down 20 spots or so. Like I said, 45 is available, potentially 57 is available. 58 for Seattle if they want to try and move up and get another first round pick and get themselves more of a higher echelon talent. I think that this might be a creative way to move on from Peter Mrazek and not have to part ways with the number of draft picks. You're just moving down the board a little bit, lessening the value of your pick. But with the way that the Leafs have been able to scout prospects the last few years in that second round, I think that it's a no-brainer. Personally, I think that would make a whole lot of sense, and you don't have to give up a whole lot to get rid of that Peter Mrazek deal.
Yeah, I'm when you explain it that I'm more on board. I know Kyle Dubas has really wanted to give this draft the scouts a chance to draft the first round pick. But here's the thing, what's more valuable to the Leafs right now going into next season? Is it that 25th overall pick, or is it the cap space you're going to get and potentially a player you can draft that might be not too far away? Like if I'm picking one, you're gonna try the window is right now, right? And you got a lot, and we talked about this. You got a lot of prospects. The Leafs have found ways to bring in guys in other ways as well. I would do it if the deal makes sense.
Well, how many 25th overall picks are ready to go? Like their draft year or their D+1 year. It usually takes guys that late into a draft a couple of years to develop and make get into the NHL. So, I mean, I think that it's a move that they have to consider.
I can list through most of them. Like Justin Barron was in 2020. Jordan Smaltz in 2012. There's Stuart Percy 2011.
Are
I
you
don't know if you
are you
remember.
just looking at 25th overall picks?
Yeah.
Beauty.
It's it's funny. I think the best player to be picked 25th
Riley
overall.
Tuft, I think, was a 25th overall pick back in 2016.
Yep, Riley Tuff was Ryan Paling, who is yet to really latch on with the
Yeah, he
Canadians.
had that one great game against the Leafs in the final game of the season, and then hasn't really done anything since.
I will say, probably the best player picked 25th overall
Kirill.
was David Pastrnak.
Oh, yeah. Was Kirill Kaprizov 25th? Maybe not. If
Kirill,
he's not on your list,
no,
obviously not.
I would have seen Kirill right away, but Pastrnak was drafted in the 2014 draft.
Kaprizov was
He
a
played,
5th round pick. Oh, my goodness.
so he didn't start in the NHL right away. He started in Providence and then eventually he came to the NHL.
Right.
So he's probably the only, but like David Pastrnak.
It's not great odds. Like that's 1 out of the last 10 have turned out to be terrific players, right?
I'm not seeing enough here to convince me that the Leafs are we're undervaluing the 25th overall pick. I think we're putting it at a look. You can get a decent player, but the chance of it being a David Pastrnak, 1 in 10 chance.
Yeah.
That is 10% odds, folks.
Yeah.
Not great odds.
Not terrific. Not terrific. All right.
People are just hating us. Like Tony is just seething as he's never going to come on the podcast again.
Well, yeah, maybe not. We're gonna have to get him on the podcast either this week or next week when we start going and diving into draft content. For the purposes of our show, I would like to talk about a first round pick because I've yet to be able to really do that. We did talk about, I guess, the year they drafted Rodion Amirov. I remember Braden Schneider was the guy who I wanted Braden Schneider, and now he looks like a pretty good player, someone that the Leafs could also use right now as a big, burly, right shot defenseman who the big thing about him was he looked like he would be NHL ready within, a year or two. And, well, here he is, made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Final with the New York Rangers. Unfortunate what happened there, but it's neither here nor there. We're not gonna harp on it. Okay. It's time, Dave. It's time for the first clue in the Name That Leaf jersey giveaway. We're giving away an Austin Matthews jersey. And the first clue for you, this player, this former Maple Leaf, was a Maple Leafs draft pick. So we're talking about all these draft picks, and we're talking about the draft. So fitting that the very first clue is that this player was indeed a draft pick by the Toronto Maple Leafs. So that's your first clue. We will be giving out 4 more throughout the rest of the week. Another one tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, the final one coming on Friday, in which you will tell us the player who you think it is on Friday, and then on Monday's show, we'll reveal the winner. Go ahead, also like this video right now. Go give it a like, and just to let us know that you have watched it and you've got the clue, and that'll help us out as well. All right, Dave, before we go any further, we do have 2 more questions that we got to finish up with this Leafs, the Athletics Leafs fan survey. But before we get there, I do want to tell the good folks about betonline.net. It's your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all latest sport developments, news, odds, including this year's NBA Finals, the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, MLB, and of course, all the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano. Got Dave Morassutti with me. So we started this last week. This is the third, I guess, part 3 of us going over the Leafs fan survey. So technically they actually closed the survey down, but we do have the final couple of questions, but we just
Yeah.
can't show it on the screen like we did for the first couple of episodes. But we do have the questions. So let's get right to it, Dave. The first one, and it's a little spicy. So John Tavares has a no movement clause. Would you approach him about potentially waiving it, or would you not approach him about waiving this no movement clause if you were Kyle Dubas? David, you can answer this one first.
This is so tough. You know what? I've seen this market enough to know that you put something out like that, even if he tries to do it in secret, it's really hard to keep something like that a secret. So, like, I'm gonna just say no because I don't think that's something I expect Kyle Dubas to do. And personally, I just think looking at what happened this year for the Leafs, I can't really put it on John Tavares. I personally can't. He should have had a goal in Game 7, and it was taken away from him. But
Settled in.
I just feel like he was not a passenger this season. I feel like a lot of people were saying he was a passenger. I don't think he was. You know, I would maybe have a conversation with him to say, how do you feel about the direction of the team? Because he is the captain. You have to get those ideas from him. But I just see this guy, people say, he's not the best guy in the, talking wise. How is he as a leader? I just remember after last year, he had like pretty much a gathering with all the Leafs players after that Montreal, and just they kind of all sat down there and they just hashed everything out that went bad in that series. To me, that's a guy that wants to get it done and wants to win. So I don't think he would want to move his no movement clause as well. I think this is a guy that is very prideful, and I think it's just you're asking for trouble if you approach him to waive that no movement clause.
I'm going the opposite end of that spectrum. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Does he want to be a Maple Leaf? Absolutely. He's the team's captain. He's from here. He wants to be the man to bring a cup to Toronto. 100%. We know that. That's why he signed here long term. But I'll be honest, I think at this point, that contract is becoming a bit of an anchor. And if they could move that deal, I think it would allow them to be a much deeper team. They could use that money wisely with guys who just are, well, a little bit, faster, stronger, not over 30 years old. You could get a couple of pieces, whether it's on the blue line, you could get a goaltender, like a real solid goaltender, potentially a couple of top six pieces. Like, I just think that you can use that 11 million and sprinkle it all around your roster and be a much deeper team. And he's a guy who's on the decline a little bit. What's that contract going to look like next year, the year after? If there is a team that is willing to take him on, and if he is willing to go for whatever reason, I'm with you where I don't think he would waive it. But the conversation is, would I approach him? Yes, I would approach him if I'm Kyle Dubas, because I can't sit there and have a heart, because this is a business, and the best business move for the Maple Leafs would technically be to find a new place for John Tavares and reutilize that cap and reallocate it a little more accordingly. I truly believe that would be the most beneficial thing that this Maple Leafs team could do. Will they do it? I don't think so. But would I if I was the team? Yeah, I think I would. I think I'd approach him and see where his head's at.
So just so we can put a little bit of a bow on this, here's the other thing I'm going to tell people. You're not trading $11 million and it's going to be a clean slate. That just doesn't happen in the NHL anymore. You're not trading him to a team that's going to be able to just say, yeah, we'll absorb $11 million. You don't take anything back. You are trading $11 million and you either are getting a bunch of things, as you said, that can help the team now, and it will accrue to that 11 million or close to that 11 million. You are just not trading that $11 million and saying, all right, we're done. We're wiped clean. It's just not going to happen. Even with the Jack Eichel, like that's the comparable deal. in terms of cap value.
If you could get what Jack Eichel got, 1,000%, I would make that trade.
That it wasn't even equal to the 11 million.
Yeah, right. But I'm saying if anyone is offering the Leafs that type of deal, like he doesn't hold the same value as Jack Eichel, in my opinion.
And that's the thing, right? You're talking about a Jack Eichel who is what, 20, early 20s?
He's the same age as McDavid, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe a year
He's
older
the same
because of
age.
late birthday. So yeah, I think he's a 2014 birthday, but a late 2014, which is why he was in the 2015 draft. Anyway, he was also coming off a real serious injury where it's like, what's this guy going to look like? So that also hindered his trade value. So I'll give you that. But ultimately, like if anyone's stepping up with a deal that's close to what Buffalo got from Vegas for Jack Eichel, I am calling John Tavares. If I am, if I'm Larry Tannenbaum, I'm calling John Tavares and I'm saying I'll offer you my summer house for the rest of your life, whenever you want it, if you waive your no move clause and just make this trade, because that will allow this team to go further. That's honestly how I look at that.
Yeah, I just don't know if that. I just think that how we view the contract and how every fan is viewing the contract, a lot of teams are viewing that contract.
Yeah.
Some will really like John Tavares as a player, guaranteed. I still like John Tavares as a player, but they're going to see that $11 million and be like, you know what? The economic times right now, they're not great. And it's not going to be easy. We're not taking that contract off your books very easily.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably not. But
just a little bit of a reality check to a lot of those great JT, and not to just you, people in the comments. I've seen it.
No, I know. It's not everything's such an apples to apples, one for one type of deal. There are things that get a little complicated, and you got to get creative. But ultimately, I think we're both on board saying John Tavares is going to remain the captain of this team, or at least remain on this team for the next few seasons. He's got a couple of years left on this deal. I'd be shocked if
I do not expect John Tavares' next contract to be anywhere close to $11 million. If that's going to make anybody feel any better about keeping John Tavares on, you show a little faith in him now, he'll reward you when that time comes. I guarantee.
I like that angle. We see a little Mark Giordano, Jason Spezza thing happening with JT at that point.
I 100% see that with John Tavares.
Because now we're talking. If you can get Tavares at $1 million, even a couple of years from now, just to be like a fourth line or to be whatever the heck he is at that point, it doesn't even matter. That would be well worth keeping him on board the next couple of years. If you had that assurance that he's willing to stick around and just do the Toronto Greybeard contract and stick around for under $1 million, then yes, 100%, you keep that guy in the fold the next couple of years. I like where you're thinking, Dave. All right.
It's a little Sunday night thinking here. All right, here's the
Next one.
We're talking about core players. Here's a real doozy one.
Oh, which core member of the Leafs would you trade? Well, I basically just gave my answer.
Yeah, you said Tavares.
Tavares is the guy who I would trade. Although now I'm second guessing it, thinking because you're long game. You're thinking long game. I like that. I wasn't even thinking about that being a possibility, and maybe I'll change my answer a little bit. But I'm gonna stick with it ultimately. Like if you could trade somebody, I think Tavares would be the most. I don't know, the guy that I think you could probably utilize. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. I just think Tavares' contract is going to become such a dead weight. And if you could find a way to get it off the books and replace it with better talent, cheaper talent at the very least, I think that would be more beneficial than an $11 million over the hill, quickly deteriorating second line center.
Yeah. And now here's my other thing too. We're talking long term here. Out of all these, Riley is the only one that is signed here for the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these guys are coming up soon.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at this, you're not trading Matthews. Just don't. We're not even. If I had my case, I wouldn't even have had Matthews here in part of the answers. out of all these guys here, who's the most likely to leave you high and dry at the end of his deal?
Ooh.
Look for an out.
It's like probably Nylander.
This is where I'm going at, where this is not about me wanting to move Nylander, but I'm thinking his next deal is not going to be easy because he kind of, now some will say he didn't take a hometown discount, which I don't think he did, but his deal has been the most economical on the team. And I don't think
Now.
now it is, right? He probably sees his value, and he probably thinks on a different team, different situation, he might thrive more. And I'm thinking that there could be a team that sees his cap hit and is more likely to trade for that than to trade for any other player you got.
Yeah, so I think Nylander nets you well. I mean, Marner Matthews would net you the most, but but
It's the easier deal to move, and I think
yeah,
the value is still there.
yes, I would agree. I think he's the most logical person that you would trade. Would be William Nylander. What about Marner though? Would you ever think about trading Mitch Marner? I mean, $11 million for a winger seems like a heck of a lot of money.
I'm looking, yeah. I think the Leafs, if you gotta, I think they need to balance it a little bit more. They got, they got to Tavares making a lot, over 10. They got Matthews making over 10. Having three guys making over 10 is just never made sense in the first place. So I feel like if a team went up and offered something for Marner, you know what? I'd consider it.
What would you need?
Well, you have to somewhat try to replace his production in some way. You're not getting a guy who's going to get close to 100 points like he did. But you're going to need someone that can play with Matthews, someone that has some playmaking ability. Really similar to the Jack Eichel trade. Maybe a little less, maybe, but similar to the Jack Eichel trade.
I don't know if I would take anything less than that, to be honest with you.
That was two NHL players they got. So they got Krebs and
Puck.
well, yeah. Plus they got a first, and I think they got another pick on top of that. I maybe asked for 2 first-round picks for sure, plus a couple of other pieces. Like, think about what
it would cost a lot. It would cost a lot. There'd be
it would have to be.
but
It would have to be.
at the end of the day, your team's not going to be better by trading away Marner. I think it's possible. If you were to trade away Tavares, you could become a better team. If you were to trade away Nylander, you could become potentially a better team, but you could at least be even keel. Even Riley, you could probably trade away Morgan Riley and be a better team. Marner and Matthews, they'll be probably the best players that you could potentially trade in a deal, and you're not going to get that production or replacement back. So those guys to me would be out of the question. But those other three, I think you could either get better or at least be the same, but a little bit different. You know what I mean? Like if you move on from Nylander, are you going to get someone who's as good as him? Perhaps not, but you get someone who plays a little bit of a different style, which may mesh a little bit better with this team, right? Add a little bit of that. Yeah, like that missing element because they have so many like star playmaking wingers. Like they just have a lot of them. Or just in general, star playmakers. They need someone with a little bit of jam, and perhaps that's the right ingredient. Sometimes just got a little bit of pepper to that meal to make it really pop. Know what I'm saying?
Definitely. That's where I'm thinking. You have to think about which guy do you see as the biggest part of the core moving forward. I don't think Nylander's that guy. I think the organization has kind of soured a bit in terms of this guy. No, Kyle Dubas didn't fight to keep William Nylander with John Tavares. That's something a GM would fight for with his coach, in my opinion.
See, we look at that differently, though. I'll say that I know that we have a little differing opinion on how it ended with like Nylander on the third line, Tavares on the second line. I just thought I looked at that more as a philosophical thing as opposed to a production type of thing. But I think the strongest point that you've made, though, is, 2 years from now, who's the guy that's most likely to go? And I think it is Nylander. And if that's the case, you'll never get more value for him this summer than you would to trade him now than if you waited a year or potentially longer. This is the time to strike and make that trade.
So what Mike is basically saying, Dave, you made your point. You've done a good job. Let's just. All right, got it. I won.
You win.
I've won.
You win, and we're approaching 50 minutes, so we do have to wrap it up.
That's the other reason too.
We do got to wrap it up.
It's like typical times. We have a hard time saying goodbye.
Yeah, a very, very difficult time saying goodbye. This is true. I had my sister's stag and doe over the weekend. Congratulations to her, by the way. They did very
I
well.
did see some of those videos. It looks like you had a lot of goodies and prizes.
Oh, yeah, there was some great stuff. The Matthews jersey, there's another Matthews jersey that was up for the same guy. So we had a Matthews and a McDavid jersey. The same guy won both jerseys.
He probably put all of his tickets into those.
He had like 2 of those massive penny raffle sheets. He just ripped them all up, put them in one, ripped the other one up, put them in the other, and ended up walking away with a his and hers, him and his girlfriend.
Don't hate the player, Mike. As I say, don't hate the player, hate the game. That's how I feel with my signed jerseys.
I came home with like a couple of booze related items, so I did okay. I did okay myself. All right, that's going to do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasts and platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and also follow the show at Locked On Leafs. And please go ahead, leave a like, leave a comment down below on YouTube. Subscribe also for a chance to win that jersey. Come back each and every day for a brand new clue, and then on Friday we will give you the last one, and you'll have to answer in the comment section who you believe the player was. But that's gonna do it for us here today. We'll be back with another episode tomorrow. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.